birds, people, and the dogs that bring them together. This is episode number 15. My name is Bill, and you're tied to the Woe Post. Well, turkey season is all wrapped up here in Indiana, and I got one on my last day out. Of course, the turkey season closes here on Mother's Day, and there's no way that I was going to go turkey hunting on Mother's Day. So I was happy to get one on the second to the last day of the season. He made me work for it. It seems like on this property, you're always going to have to run and gun. I have not successfully called in a turkey on that property. Maybe I'm just not that great of a turkey caller, but those turkeys are not listening to what I've got to say. But I was able to track this one for quite a while, several miles back and forth across this field. I just wasn't really sure where he was going to come back into the woods, but managed to intercept him, got him. He's a Jake, but he's a legal bird here in Indiana. And on the second to last day of the season and my last day of hunting, that's the bird that I'm going to take every time. I also learned that my next small Munsterlander from Brushdale Kennel was born. Brushdale produces arguably the best small Munsterlanders in North America. That's where I get my breeding stock from. I'm looking forward to meeting my puppy at the annual SMCNA meeting at Brushdale Kennel, June 7th to 9th. If you want to learn more about how the breed club runs, or you want to meet other active small Munsterlander owners, you can meet me there. If you want to find out how to register or how to get there, just contact me on Facebook or Instagram through my website, www.thewopost.com, or through email, bill@thewopost.com. I'd like to thank my newest patron, Michael Watts. And if you'd like to support the podcast, you can sign up at patreon.com/thewopost. Once we get our new puppy, we're going to start posting exclusive content about raising that puppy on our Patreon page. And this fall, we'll also have exclusive content about whelping and raising a litter of small Munsterlander puppies. So here's a fun fact. It's something that I actually just learned a few minutes ago, that the dog formerly known as the Brittany Spaniel actually originates from Spain. And I guess probably should have known that because it's in the name. The other part of the name, Brittany, pays homage to the Breton region of France where the breed was developed. Is that French too? Homage? I think it is. Anyway, in the middle 1800s, there's evidence of crossing the Spaniel with English setters, not really the setters that we are familiar with today, the 1800s version of said dog. And ultimately, the Brittany that we know emerged in the early 1900s. The Brittany is a compact, medium-sized leggy dog, standing 17.5 to 20.5 inches tall, and generally weighing 30 to 40 pounds. Their coat is long enough to protect, but not so long that it catches hundreds of burrs and stick tights. It's lightly fringed and can be orange and white or liver and white, with clear versions or roan versions in either color. They're known for their keen nose and habitable disposition, and they're also known to absorb training faster than other breeds. Today we're talking Brittany's with Deb Meline from Otter Creek Brittanys in Jordan, Arkansas. Hey, Deb, how you doing?
Good morning. I'm well.
Great. Thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking your time to come and talk to us for a little bit.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
My name's Deb Meline. I live in North Central Arkansas. I own Otter Creek Brittanys. We've been breeding Brittanys for about 13 years now.
How did you decide on Brittany? Did you own Brittany's and decide to start breeding, or did you say I want to be a breeder and then figure out which breed you wanted?
Okay, so this is kind of a story, and I don't know that you want to use this, but this is really how we got into it. My husband and I were in cutting horses most of our lives. And when we got married and moved to Arkansas, we decided we were too old for horses. They're, tough. And looking for a new hobby. And there's a lot of lakes here, and we like hunting. We hunt deer and turkey. And so we tried fishing for our new pastime sport. And we weren't any good really at that. We tried the fly fishing, and because it's, up here, there's a lot of fly fishing, and then we tried lake fishing and river fishing. And one day he came home and said, we're going to go to this game bird preserve. I'm like, okay, I like to shoot, I like dogs. And went to the preserve, and it was really fun. The guy put out some quail, and he took us around. We shot some quail, and about midway through the trip, my husband didn't feel very well, so he and the guide went back to the barn, and the guide said, there's still birds out here. Take this dog, if you want to. And so I did, and it was really fun. And this little dog, this little Brittany female, she was pointing, and I was shooting, and it was just great. And then she found a bird like on the bank of a pond. I got it up, I shot it, it went over the fence, a woven wire fence, and I just turned around, figured, we'll go find another bird. And I turned around, and she was climbing this fence.
Oh, wow.
All over paw, climbing this fence, and my mouth just dropped. I was like, what is happening? She climbed the fence. She went and got the bird, came back, climbed the fence again, ran right to me and brought that bird. And I was so overwhelmed. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. Never seen anything like this. Got back to the barn.
Let me can I interrupt you real quick?
Sure.
I want to know what that guy's force fetch or conditioned retrieve plan or whatever, however he executed that to get that dog.
Let me tell you,
tight. I want to know.
That's the best part of the story.
Oh,
so
great!
I get back to the barn, and I tell him the story. And I'm so excited. I'm like, "You're not going to believe this. This little dog, she went over the fence, and then she come back, she ran and gave me the bird. I was so excited." And this guy is just staring at me and saying nothing. And he said, "Are you sure that's what I said?" So I told him the story again. She went over the fence. Da 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 da. He said, "Well, this dog doesn't retrieve." And I said, "Well, let me tell you the story again, because and and this little dog and me, we just connected. I was so excited. I mean, I was just hooked. I fell in love right there." And so my husband and I, we left. 2 days later, this guide called me and called us, and he said, this dog is about 6.5. She works really hard every day, and we're looking to retire her. Would you be interested? I said, name your price. I'm coming to get her. And went and got this little dog. Her call name was Little Girl. Her registered name was Mel's Ginger. And of course, I just fell in love with this dog, and her and I just hunted and hunted and hunted, and she never retrieved to me like that again. But we ended up trading. My husband, we loved the Brittany's, just fell in love. I mean, they're so personable, and the guy did say, he said, now listen, this dog's really manipulative. She'll talk you out of your socks, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Well, she was, and all Brittany's are kind of that way to an extent. I mean,
well, I think she talked you into buying her. I think maybe she knew that her time at the preserve was almost up, and she said, "I kind of like this lady, so yeah, I'm going to wow her for a second."
She wowed me for sure. I tell that story a lot. And a few months later, we decided, we need another one. So my husband traded this guy a shotgun for a young male dog. We ended up, raising him. And then he was my primary field trial dog for about 10 years. And he taught me everything I knew. He taught me way more than I taught him. But the little female dog, Little Girl, we had a friend that had a well-bred male, bred her, I said, what do you charge for puppies? I have no idea. He said, we're going to charge $500. I said, nobody's ever going to buy a dog for $500. Well, we had our first litter. The first pup we sold to a lady in Florida, Sharon Watson. She had a partner named Sam Ashmore. He was big into NSTRA. And they took that dog on, and he's now a 3-time national champion. This is the first puppy we ever sold. 3-time national champion, 11-time open champion, and has produced champions. So,
And you sold that dog for $500.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But then Mel's Ginger became something, and we sold all the pups. And then when this pup, his name's Watson, when he got old enough to breed, then the lady came back and said, "Love this dog. I want a female from you. What do you got?" And so we did. We had a really nice little litter. The mother was out of a dual champion, AKC dual champion. She came from Lisa Hedstrom in North Dakota, I believe. Mass Jack of Diamonds. Well, nice female. Had this litter. The lady from Florida bought one of the females. We said, when, no charge, when you cross those 2 pups, we want a male. A couple years later, she called and said, "Well, we've got your pup ready." So we got Simba, and Simba now is an open champion, and I trial him, and he's amazing. And now he's producing champions. So, we just kind of fell into that line, but it just turned out, I guess God had his eye on us, because, it was nothing that we planned. It just happened. But then after that, we really got into Brittany's and started, my husband was a big bloodlines. He was into pedigrees, and he knew all the big dogs. And so we started, buying a couple dogs that had great bloodlines. And that was 14 years ago.
You think that your experience with horses prior to dogs kind of gave you a little bit of a leg up, and
absolutely
understanding a lot of that already?
Yeah. I was into cutting horses pretty much most of my life, training, breeding, showing. And a bird dog's a lot like a cutting horse, from the perspective that it's their instinctive, what they're bred for, that you develop, like a cutting horse. They're a cow horse, and you drop the reins and let the horse, of course there's training involved, but they instinctively can know what a cow is going to do. Bird dogs, they instinctively point, find birds, back each other. So you just build on that instinctive character that they have, So yeah, and then the discipline that you have with horses. I worked for some big ranches, and we worked hard, and we were, concentrated on a lot of, the medical, the legs, keeping them in condition, and then, just a lot of hard work. So I think that, that flows over to any bird dog, any kennel, really. It's hard work. It's hard work to do it right.
Oh, sure.
So, when you have a litter of puppies, it's not just you throw them in the backyard and hope that they're okay. No, there's a lot to do. So I think just the discipline that comes with horse training was applied to the bird dogs.
Now, you mentioned field trials. So did you start horseback trials with your dogs before you got into NSTRA?
No. We through this guide that we bought the first couple dogs from, he started having fun trials. Just a bunch of guys got together, and we just started, just for fun. We were, had our own little set of rules, and we were just having these fun trials. And one day, one of the older guys said, we should get into this NSTRA thing and step up our game. We all said, okay, so we went to a couple and just got hooked. And then our club became a NSTRA club. And then we joined, the region, and it's grown that was in 2011, and it's grown quite a bit. It's called North Arkansas Quail Club, and we're in the Arkansas, Louisiana region. And now we put on big trials, and we're just hooked. It's a lot of fun, a lot of great people, and you see really great dogs. It's all breeds: pointers, setters, GSPs, Brittany's, wired hairs, and you see the best dogs in the country at these things. Mm-hmm.
As we were talking before we started recording, you had mentioned that you'd found some recent success in the NSTRA field over the last couple of years. What do you think it is about Brittany's, or at least your Brittany's, that allows them to compete with the more ubiquitous, bigger pointing breeds?
Okay, so I think having a successful dog is a balancing act. We have dogs that are pretty big runners, probably not compared to a pointer, but big enough for me. 100 yards is a nice. That's big enough for me. 50, 60 yards to 100 yards. That's because in a field trial, you need a balance of a dog that's on the edge of out of control, but you need to have an obedient dog that you can take him where you want him in the field, because in the field there are 5 birds basically in each quadrant and 1 in the middle. So you need to be able to handle your dog in the field. So I think a Brittany is a little more controllable, like a pointer. They're just going to run big, and a lot of times not in too good a control. But a Brittany is pretty trainable, biddable, and you can put them where you want them. But on the other hand, I want them to be a little bit really animated and just hard, prey drive and slamming that bird. So I think it's a balancing act. Sometimes it goes the wrong way. Sometimes it goes the right way, though. Lippy, my original male dog, we made the final 6 in a Trial of Champions national trial in 2019, which was all him, not me. The handler is 50% of the team, and he carried the load. I went to the Trial of Champions this past 2 weeks ago with a couple of dogs, a daughter and a son of Lippy's, and the handler failed. The dogs were great, the handler failed. So it's all a balancing act.
I think a lot of that really comes down to preference as well. There are hunters and trialers that want to see that dog just take off and hit the farthest birds, but still first. I like to watch my dog personally.
Yeah, I do too. And those dogs are great. I love watching a good pointer. I've got a friend who won the Arkansas, Louisiana region. He's got a pointer that a big running dog, but yet she's under control. And I like pointers. A pointer won the Trial of Champions, and he was amazing. I just like Brittany's because not only are they great hunters and you can field trial them, you can also bring them in the house and lay on the couch. They're really a great family dog, good with kids, just a social dog. They need a lot of activity, but yet, they're just great in the house, great size. They have an off and on switch. When they get to the field, it's all business. And when they're here at the house, they're just, laying on the couch and so forth. So,
do you do much hunting outside of NSTRA and the trials fields?
I'd love to, but I have so many dogs. It's really hard to get away. And, you've got to find people you trust to take care of them. And it's hard to ask somebody to take care of 8 or 10 dogs, So I don't get out to hunt. I'd love to. Someday I will. But, a lot of my pups go to serious hunters too. I have a guy in central Arkansas. He just tells me, I'll be back every 2 or 3 years for a dog. Have one ready for me. I like a female. And he shoots 800 to 1,300 birds a year over his
Wow.
dogs. So he's serious. And he
Yeah.
likes the Brittany's, and he's a serious hunter. So I have a lot of those too.
800. That's got to be mostly preserved birds. I would assume with those kind of
No,
numbers.
the guy works in the oil field industry. I don't know exactly what he does,
Yeah.
but so he takes his dogs with him. He's in North Dakota, he's in Montana, he's in Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and just takes his hunts every day. So I'm particular about and I don't say sell. I don't sell dogs. I place dogs with
Right.
the right people. I'm particular about who I place a dog with. And of course, this guy, I mean, that's bird dog heaven. The dogs that have been with him, I mean, they're happy. It's the ultimate life for a bird dog.
The ultimate life for me. I'd be happy. I'm not even a bird
Me
dog.
too.
How many dogs did you say you have now? You said 10 or 11?
Well, here at the house right now, I've got 7 adults and a litter of 9. And then I partner with some people, a family that I trial with, the Jackson family, Larry Jackson and his 2 sons, Josh and Jeff. And they help me a lot with, getting birds and taking care of my dogs. And I help them with training their dogs and getting them ready for a trial. So I probably have 7 adults here, and I probably have 3 or 4 over there at his house. Generally, I have around 10, give or take, plus a litter.
Yep. Mm-hmm. When was the litter whelped?
March 21st. They're going to be 7 weeks old on Thursday, and they're ready to go to their new homes.
And you're ready to send them to their new homes, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're all teeth, and yeah, they're ready to go.
So when you're talking Brittany's to people, and you're giving your Brittany elevator pitch, who would you say is the right person, the right hunter or trialer or home for a Brittany?
I think someone, a person or a family who's really active outdoors, because a Brittany, very social, and they like to do a lot of things, just any outdoor activity. I've had Brittany's go to people that are runners or hikers, or some go to the agility competitions. I think anybody that's very active, and it's just a plus if they're a hunter, if they're a bird hunter or a trialer. So, if I get a call from someone that, I don't think is a good fit, they live in an apartment, they don't have a yard, they work all day, they don't have time for the dog. I just say, I'm sorry, it's not a good fit. I years ago, my husband and I learned that not everybody needs to have a Brittany, and we turned some people away and made them mad. But, I want to be able to not worry about them at night when I go to sleep, so, and since we decided to be really particular, I feel great about, where my dogs go. And some people say, how can you part with these puppies? I'm just so attached. But if you interview really well and know that they're going to a better home than what I can give them here, because with 10 or 15 dogs, I can't give them the attention that this person's going to give them. So I just interview, and I feel really good about where they're going, or I don't let them go. So that's pretty much the people. And I like people that do their research. They need to research what a Brittany is, how much activity it needs. I want them to research me. I want them to know, because getting a dog, as is like getting a family member, and you're going to live with this dog for 15 years. So let's make sure it's the correct dog for you.
I think there are a few important points there when you're getting a puppy. you're really investing in the breeder more than you are in the dog,
Mhm.
especially if it's your first sporting dog or your first dog of that particular breed or whatever. There's a certain amount of support that every puppy buyer is going to need.
Mhm.
And if you're buying the wrong dog, you're just buying a Brittany because you like the way they look, but you're not going to use that dog for what it's really meant for or
Mhm.
for some of the skills that bring to the table, then you're not making the right decision, for the dog. You're not going to get the support that you need for the breeder because the breeder's providing dogs, for
Right.
for a reason, right?
Right. And I think I have people that, I charge $1,200 for a pup.
Hmm.
And some people think that's too expensive. If I get someone that calls me and said they only want to spend $500 or $300, then I'm not the person for you,
No.
because when you purchase a pup here, you have me for the life of the dog, 24/7. And I don't want you to guess or worry, or you call me in the middle of the night. My dog's got this problem, or I'm having this problem training it, or we have to had a gentleman that bought a dog years ago, ended up having back surgery, couldn't take care of the dog. Bring it back.
Yep.
Bring it back. I will find a home for it. But don't, so when you pay that kind of money for a dog, I don't think is if you understand what you're getting with the dog, you're getting guarantee health. I don't care how long the dog, I mean, I'm guaranteeing the health on the dog. You get me for the life of the dog, so you have somebody to fall back on. If you go on vacation and you need somebody to take care of the dog, call me. But that's what you get when you go to a good breeder.
Sure. Yep. And a good breeder is always going to take the dog back,
Exactly.
regardless of what the condition,
Yes.
even owner induced conditions, the
Mhm.
dog's coming back. But me personally, I'd rather not take a dog back because it is additional work for me to I may have to even go get the dog and I may have to rehome that dog, but who knows what I'm going to use the word damage, and not that it was always done maliciously, but there may be some things that need to be undone with that dog
Mhm.
before it goes to live the life that it was meant to live somewhere else.
Mhm.
And that's a significant investment on the in the training field.
Right. And then that's another reason that you interview your people really well, and you're comfortable with how they're going to treat the dog, and you're comfortable with their knowledge of taking care of the dog. Um, so we've had really good success in that because we're really particular on the front end.
Sure. And then, the flip side of that too, to answer, getting back to that question of, how can you pair these puppies, these cute little fur balls
Hmm.
out with other people? And I'd say, well, get 10 puppies in your house for 8+ weeks from
Yes.
the day they're born to the day that they turn into little tiny alligators
Yeah.
that make funny noises and start getting into stuff, and tell me you're not ready to send those puppies
Yes.
somewhere else,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Absolutely. You've raised litters evidently, because
Well,
people don't realize how hard it is to have a litter of puppies.
I actually have my A litter will be this fall. So I have not done it, but I've been helping people out. I have a great mentor. Um, I've been working with other breeders,
Mhm.
and they all say the same thing,
Yep.
come around 6 to 7 weeks. They're like,
Yep.
yeah, these puppies are about ready to go.
Yep.
So
Yep. They need to go. Yeah. Yeah. We're at that point right now.
yeah, I
And
bet.
I
Well,
love them
that's
I love them to pieces, but I also know that the people they're going to, they'll love them to pieces, and they have time to, you know, handle all that stuff. So,
Yeah. And they were created for a purpose. At the end of the day, they were created to go be great hunting dogs or trialing dogs or sporting companions for somebody else, right?
yep, exactly. Or family pets, they make great family pets. And, um, so I love placing a dog. I think I get a question that people ask, one, how can you let go of them? And two, do you have any restrictions on breeding the dog, et cetera? And I think that there are 330 million people in this country, And if 10% of them own dogs and 10% of them need a Brittany, that's like 30,000 people. So I think everybody should have a Brittany in their home, be blessed with a Brittany, and if they want to breed them, I think that's just fine. Most of them let me guide them and help them find a stud or a female to breed, so that they're not just doing another backyard thing. So a good breeder's good there for that too, to help guide them if they want to continue breeding the dog.
Is it easier for you if they tell you that from the get-go? The first time they contact you to talk about puppies and they say, oh, I'm interested in maybe adding a breeding female to my kennel, or I'm interested in another stud dog in my stud kennel, or I want to start out as a breeder or whatever. How do you mentor that person differently than the average puppy buyer?
Of course, the first thing I tell them is how difficult it is. And if you're going to do it right. Make sure that you have, your vaccinations in order, your worming plan in order. Make sure you're crossing your dog on the right male. I try to talk them out of it first thing. And
right.
if they're really adamant about it, I said, let me help you. I will help you. I will help you through the whole process. Don't just run off and, I have had some people that just let their dogs get bred. If they call me again, I don't ever sell them another dog. I'm pretty upfront with people. I think you mismanage this dog. And these are good dogs. Don't let that happen. You treat them like good dogs. And so I try to talk them out of it first. But if they're adamant, like I have a guy in Florida, he's had his dogs for a few years now. And he says, well, I'd sure like to, maybe breed the dog. And so we talked about it, and he's very appreciative for the help and for the guidance. And he'll let me help him find the correct cross, the male, So I like a person like that. If they want to do it right, I'm all there, So, it's just like, your initial interview. You just have to be very honest with people. And this is what you're looking at. This is what this is going to entail.
I'll tell a quick story. So I was in sporting goods store the other day at the firearms counter, and I was wearing a Rough Grouse Society hat. And so the lady behind the counter asked if I was a grouse hunter. And so we started talking about dogs, and she has Goldens that she occasionally hunts. She and her husband occasionally hunt over. And she mentioned that she might like to breed her female. And I wasn't really convinced that she had a lot of experience with that. So I politely asked her, what was it about her female that made her want to breed that dog? And she had her normal, or the kennel blindness answer that we all have about how pretty they are. And, oh, there's perfect dogs. And then, which of course, we know that there's no such thing. Right. But as I said, so, well, specifically, what is it about your female that you think needs to be passed on in order to make that breed better? And then, of course, she couldn't answer the question, which is fine. Right. And after a conversation about that, she said, maybe I don't need to breed this dog. And I said, well, maybe you do and maybe you don't, but I don't think you know if you do. And then we started talking about the processes and some of the checks and balances that we as breeders use to make sure that our potential breeding stock is actually a very good breeding stock. And they have the traits, whether it's temperament or it's structure or it's hunting aptitude or, you name it, that we think should be continually improved in the breed. I felt pretty good after that conversation, actually. And I hope she felt good about it. I don't think I made her feel bad about her dog, but I may have saved her some trouble. Right?
Yeah, you did her a favor, and somebody should ask that question.
Sure.
So, yeah, good for you.
People have asked that question, to me about my female. I approached this process a little bit differently. I knew I wanted to breed bird dogs. I chose small Munsterlanders after doing a lot of homework. And then I went to the right breeder who has a great track record of producing very, very good dogs that produce very, very good dogs. And then I was open with her from the get-go and said, I want to start my own kennel. I want to start small with one female, and I want to get her as a puppy. I understand that there's risk there. Can you help me? And she said, well, I can help you through the process as long as you identify that there is risk and that, I'll give you the best puppy that I can based off of what I see out of this puppy at 8 weeks old. But, but there's still a process that you have to go through in order to make sure that this is the right dog. And I'm not lifting the breeding restriction on this dog until all of those I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And she's
Nice.
been a huge help throughout this whole process. And now, we're ready to go. And she has very, very strict standards about which dogs she lifts breeding restrictions on, and what we have to do with third parties. Hunt tests, you have to have a certain score on NAVDA hunt tests, right? Natural ability test at a minimum. She wants to see an international champion confirmation title on the dog through IABCA, which is, and I'm a huge IABCA fan. I will ring that bell all day long about the value that those judges provide to a breeder on the structure of the dog, and the conversation you can have with the judge after they give you your evaluation about which areas should be improved, how to improve them, what you're looking for in a stud dog, and what you absolutely should not sacrifice that your bitch brings to the table. For mine, it's top line. Her top line is impeccable, they say, and you don't want to sacrifice top line while you're working on maybe changing some of these other, structural traits.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Nice.
and, DNA testing is another one. I know we were talking about Embark before. I'm a huge fan. There are some Embark naysayers out there, and I always ask, well, who else is giving you your coefficient of inbreeding from the DNA test? Not just from the pedigree, which we can all do and come out with some roundabout percentage, which is probably not accurate because it changes from puppy to puppy, right? But Embark can give it to you by actually looking at the chromosomes and telling, they'll say this dog, two dogs from the same litter, one can be at 18% and one can be at 8%. How would you know that?
Right.
Especially, with our breed, we don't have a lot of good breeding stock out there right now. And maybe that's an overstatement. There are plenty of good dogs out there, but our breed is pretty small and there aren't a ton of breeders. So we've got to be a little bit careful with our coefficient of inbreeding. And the kennel where I get my breeding dogs from, where my one female is from, and my puppy that was just born a few days ago that I'll have in a couple months, is coming from the same kennel. Those are line bred dogs. So Michelle has to be very careful watching that coefficient of inbreeding to make sure that we stay on the line bred side and not on the inbred side. Again, find me another genetic test company that's giving you that real answer.
Yeah, I just learned about the Embark listening to your podcast, and I looked them up. They're pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is good, and they have I think a lot of the companies have breeder accounts, which gives you a little bit more support from the company. I think a lot of the different ones do, and I'm not familiar with all of them, but I'm pretty familiar with what Embark offers now, and I'm a big fan. We have a breeder network for our small Munsterlanders that's within the club, within the breed club. There's a smaller breeder network of partnering cooperative breeders. We all use pretty much the same methodology for, I'll call it, certifying stud dogs. We don't certify the stud dogs, but we also wouldn't use those stud dogs if they hadn't met the same requirements that our breeding females meet. We all share all of that information. We're all in the same pool on the Embark, on our breeder account. So we all put our dogs in under one account. So I can look up anybody's females or males and have
That's
all
nice.
of their genetic results right there.
Yeah, that's nice. So I don't know much about a Munsterlander. Is it a pointing breed
It
or
is. Yep.
flushing? Oh, okay.
They're a
Pointing.
pointing breed. They're, a
Okay.
versatile breed, right?
Okay.
They're a smaller dog. I mean, my female is 38 pounds.
Okay.
At the vet just a little over a week ago. They're allegedly the smallest of the pointing breeds. I've seen some big males that would be, bigger than most Brittany's, I think.
Mhm. I like the
Certainly.
size. That's one thing I like about a Brittany is the size.
Yeah,
I like that. You know, I have dogs that are 28 pounds, 30 pounds to 45 pounds.
sure.
Of course, they get bigger, but that's about what my dogs are. And I like the size. They're easy to have in the house. They're easy to travel with. I clip mine at the beginning of every summer, so I don't have a lot of hair. They don't shed really bad. I like the size. I like the temperament. I mean, I just like everything about the Brittany. It just fits my lifestyle. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big deal, when you're choosing a breed. Does it fit your lifestyle? A lot of guys love the pointers. It fits their lifestyle. Um, but the Brittany fits me, and I think the Munsterlander fits you. And you have to have a dog that works in what you do. I mean, because they kind of absorb your lifestyle. And
And not
dogs
by
are smart.
choice, right?
Dogs are smart. So um, that's another thing I look at when I'm talking to a potential buyer. What's your lifestyle? You know, uh, because this dog's going to adapt to you. They're very personable. They're very social. And they have to have that interaction. So the worst thing I think you can do at a Brittany is neglect it.
Yeah,
Just it don't do anything with it. I think they just go a little bit crazy. So they have to have a lot of social time with you.
sure.
They want their
Sure.
own person, you know. So
Right. Can you or are you willing to? I know that this could get touchy here. I think you might know what I'm going to ask. Or can you talk about the difference between a French Brittany and an American Brittany, besides origin, obviously?
okay, so I have a dear friend. He has French Brittany's. Now he doesn't breed them. He just trials them, and I've helped train a couple of them. I do a lot of force fetch training, um, and I've run some of his dogs when he can't. And of course, French Brittany's are smaller than the American Brittany. I believe they're closer working. His dogs are pretty close working, maybe 50 yards. But they're super smart, super uh, trainable. Um, you know, they're nice dogs. They're smaller, of course, but great nose. His dogs have great noses. He's won the regional championship. He won it a few years ago, and then I think he was a finalist for a couple of years too. I mean, his friend, and you go to the line and you're up against this great big pointer or setter, and there's this little Brittany, and I'll tell you, they're good. They are
Yeah,
good hunters, and he does very well, very well. I like running them. So
I think, I don't know much about the intricacies of the inside of a dog's nose, but I find it hard to believe and a little bit comical that a French Brittany can smell or detect as well as, let's say, a big Gordon,
mhm,
with the different, a French Brittany having this little tiny nose, and a big Gordon or a big English pointer is
yeah,
going to have a much longer snout, right?
yeah. We see those differences a lot in the field trialing because we start trialing in this area October through like the end of March, first part of April. So weather has a ton to do with it. And you'll see when you go to some of these trials, the weather conditions and just barometric pressure, the wind, is the grass green? Is it dry? Is it raining out? Has it rained? Is it dry? And some trials you'll see all the pointers do great. And some trials you'll see like all the Brittany's will do well. A few years ago, 5 out of the 6 finalists in the regional championship were Brittany's. But the conditions of that day allowed the smaller dogs that go maybe a little slower and were closer to the ground, that the conditions were good for that dog that day. A lot of times the conditions, probably more often than not, the conditions are better for a big pointer or setter. But weather has a ton to do with it. And we've seen, trials that are really great for the bigger GSPs. Some days it's all GSPs, and some days it's all Brittany's, small Brittany's. So I think the weather, the ground conditions have a lot to do with that scenting, condition. And how a dog, like if it's going to be good for a French Brittany or a Great Big Pointer. So,
do you remember what the conditions were that day where the Brittany's excelled?
It was really hot, and the grass was green, and nobody can really pinpoint what it is about conditions. But sure. That day I do remember, and I had my Brittany's in the finals too. But his little Frenchie won that regional, and it just seemed like the weekend for Brittany's. But it was hot. It was really green. I can't remember if it was raining. It's been a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So I don't really remember, but a lot of the trials, it'll be all pointers. And why, I don't know. But I do know that scenting conditions have a lot to do with it. So you read about what's the gland called? I can't think of it. But they're scenting, gland or whatever it is, and how different it can be in different breeds. So I think the scent cone has different levels from the ground, sure. Or different density, or scent conditions, weather and ground conditions are a lot of it, and that you can't control. So
if you hunt a lot of hot places with short green grass that's recently cut, get a Brittany, you'll be a happier hunter.
I don't know. I've also won trials in a snowstorm. So so I wouldn't base my choice on that, but you do see it happen.
Sure. So what do you have coming up for your kennel this year? Do you have big NSTRA plans, NSTRA's kind of wrapping up, isn't it?
It is for this area of the country. Yeah. Now up north, they're still having some trials, but for me, I'm pretty much done until October. But I generally have 2 litters a year. This year I'm going to have 3, just because last year a dog I was supposed to get a litter out of, I couldn't do. I had shoulder surgery and I just couldn't handle a litter of puppies. So this year I'm having 3, but generally it'll be 1 or 2 a year. So I've got 2 litters yet to whelp. This litter's on the ground and they're going out, but I'm big into NSTRA, and we're going to have some meetings midsummer, and then we'll start in October with a Shriners benefit in October in Illinois. And then we'll go on to the Dog of the Year national trial in Indiana. You should go to that.
When is it?
It's close to your house. It's the last full week of October, and it'll be at AMO. Mm-hmm.
Well, that, like we were talking before, that's only about a half hour or so away from me.
Yeah.
I will probably be guiding grouse though during that week. So it all kind of comes down to when my female will actually whelp. If if she holds on a little longer, if she comes into season late or whatever the deal is, then I'll be up in the Upper Peninsula guiding, and she'll be resting. She'll probably get out for a little
Yeah.
bit every day, but she won't be hunting
Yeah.
hard, obviously, if she's full of
Yeah.
puppies. But if she goes on time or a little bit early, then I'll definitely be home. So I can probably swing up and watch.
Yeah. Having puppies really determines your schedule,
It
for
it
anything else.
does. It
So I'm
does.
hoping to be all wrapped up by the 1st of September.
Right. And my wife and I were talking just yesterday or the day before about, well, maybe we should skip this, what was going to be our first litter and hold
Right.
off until springtime. That way we get a whole full hunting season, which means she gets a full, the dog, she gets a full hunting season, which is really what she's here to do. But this has always been the plan of, when she's 2.5 and healthy enough to breed, that we're going to get that first one in there as early as what's safe, what's ethical and what's correct, and then make decisions from there. But I might, depending on how this one goes and how it really affects my hunting season, I
Yeah.
may try to avoid those fall litters,
Yeah.
after this. We'll
Yeah.
see.
I like to have my litters early summer, late spring. So I'm all wrapped up by fall and I can, get back to trialing and
Sure.
and training dogs, So yeah, this is a perfect time to have puppies right now.
Sure. Yeah, it seems like there are a lot going out right now. I was at Raglan Kennels, which is a big Cocker Spaniel breeder in Illinois. I went and visited with them on Saturday. They had a puppy pickup day, and they put on a really, really good show for their puppy pickup days, and probably worked out very well for them that they had 3 litters going out on the same day. These 3 litters that were
Wow.
all within a week in age. Um,
Wow.
so that yeah, what they do is pretty impressive, which is why I went out there to see it. If you were ever interested in a little flushing dog, I'd say get a Raglan Cocker. The family that they build around their kennel is pretty impressive. Very, very well done. He had the 3 going out. He had 2 more that would be going out, I think, in another month, or plus or minus, something like that. And then he said, "Yeah, we're going to be done for the year after that."
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot of puppies.
Yeah.
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 So, 30 puppies at once, and 30 puppy buyers, some of which were like families there for puppy pickup day.
They do it all in one day. Wow.
So what they do is, so they bring everybody in on and I don't know how mandatory this is, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but what they do is they bring everybody in on Friday. They have a catered meal for everybody and just kind of grip and grin, and everybody gets to know each other. And then Saturday morning, they meet for like coffee and pastries. And, at the kennel, he's got a really nice training facility at his kennel, that a classroom. So they all meet in the classroom for, like coffee and pastries and things. And he does a very good intro to puppies, puppies 101 class for about I don't know, hour and a half, I guess. It basically says, you want the next few months of your life to be a little bit less intense, a little bit less stressful, because we know puppies bring a level of stress into our lives. Then this is a good way to do it. And he kind of talks through how to be patient, how to be persistent, how to be a leader, and and how to apply all that to your puppy. And then it's really good question and answer period, which is awesome. I think that just saves him a ton of time, I bet, because instead of answering the same question 30 times, he can answer that question one time for 30 people and facilitate a conversation around that question. And then everybody comes away with a better understanding, I think. And then they go into the pick order, and they have all the litters out there separate, and whoever's first gets to pick, and they go
You know,
through the
the
process.
picking is something, we have an order of people that, first deposit, you know, but we don't really let them just choose just whatever they want. You
Right.
know, the order actually pertains to, if I have 4 deposits for females, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's only 3 females, well, the first 3 deposits get those females, but um, they don't just get their choice. Because I'm not going to allow somebody that's a really strong hunter, and this happened to us a few years ago, a really strong hunter pick the most timid puppy. I don't want the couch potato people who just want a family pet to pick a really aggressive puppy. So I'll pretty much help them choose. Of course, if there's 2 or 3 that are pretty much at the same level of boldness, of course they get a choice. But I wouldn't let the most laid back puppy go to the strongest hunter, or vice versa. And I make that known right up front when they put their deposit down. Don't think you're going to come in and just pick one based on what it looks like. Because I've been with these puppies 8 weeks and I know which ones are going to be, they all change, but you have some that are pretty aggressive and they have some that are pretty timid, not timid, but laid back. They don't need to be, so I'm particular about the choosing.
Yeah. Well, and you don't get a good snapshot you get a great snapshot of a puppy in, the 15 to 20 minutes where you're staring at the litter or what's left of the litter. But that doesn't mean that what you're seeing right now is that puppy's typical temperament, because they could have been going hard for an hour.
Right.
And then a puppy's going to crash right after going hard for an hour.
Yeah.
So, if you see that puppy at the end of the hour where all it can think about is going to sleep and that's all it wants to do, and you think, oh, that puppy's too passive for me. Well,
exactly.
Not true. And, you've gotten to see the puppy for 8 weeks. So what that puppy's really like. And the other thing that I like to tell people is don't feel like you're not choosing. You already chose the breed. You already chose the gender, and you made, the most important choice of all, which was you chose the breeder.
Mm-hmm.
Now you chose that breeder. So you're placing a lot of trust in that breeder providing you the best puppy, whether you choose it 1 out of 8 or 10 or however many there are or not. Why not just say, hey, breeder, the puppies better than I do. You choose.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think once people kind of hear it that way, then they're a lot more comfortable with it.
And I have that situation right now. A guy, says, I really want the right dog. I said, I will guarantee you're going to get the right dog because I'm going to choose it. And I know what your lifestyle is. He's given me a rundown of his activities, his lifestyle, how many family members, what do y'all do for fun, blah, blah, blah. You're going to get the right puppy. I'm not going to let the wrong puppy go to your house.
Right.
So, and he said, oh, good. I trust you. So that's the right guy,
So amongst all the Brittany breeders, and I mean, just sporting dog breeders in general, what do you think is the one thing that makes you different from the rest of us?
I think, one, I'm very particular about where the dogs go to. I mean, I interview really well, and I don't just give you a piece of paper to fill out. I want to talk to you on the phone. If I get an inquiry, and I get a lot of emails or texts, that's great. And I'll get a little bit of, idea what the people are interested in, what they do. But I want a conversation on the phone, maybe 2 conversations, and I think that's one thing. I'm particular about where the pups go and that they're going to the right place and somebody's going to be responsible and, take the best care of the dog. That's one. I think my dogs are very competitive, not only in trialing, but I think they're great hunters. I've seen them in action, and I think they're extremely intelligent, easy to train. Intelligence is something that I really look for in breeding a dog, because some of them are a lot smarter than others. I don't mean smart, I mean intelligent, that work with you. I want a dog that is um, my teammate, my, we're going to be a team when we go hunting or trialing or whatever. Um, so I really look for that. And then I'd say, when you get a dog here, you have me for 24/7 for 15 years, and I don't care if you call me in the middle of the night. I want to help you with this dog. So I think those are some things. Um, I'm really willing to do whatever I can for somebody who has an Otter Creek Brittany. Um, I want to hear your problems, your concerns. If you need training, we're gonna get you fixed up, the right way. So I think those are probably things that I would brag about a little bit, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm about ready to buy an Otter Creek Brittany.
Oh,
My goodness. I'm sold.
I can fix you right out.
Right?
Something else, I don't just have baby puppies. I always keep 2 or 3 out of a litter to get started, because I'll get a lot of guys that are hunters that say, I don't want to mess with a puppy. Do you have anything that's started? And I always try to keep a 6, 8, 10-month-old dog that is gunshot conditioned. They've had the e-collar on some. They've been exposed to travel. I take all my young dogs, my 6-month to a year dogs that I'm keeping around for started dogs. They travel with me. They go to field trials. They're tied out all day. They're hearing gunshots. We clean the fields before and after the trial, so they get a lot of, seasoning. So, I think there's people that love little puppies and are patient enough to wait a year for them to, be ready to go to the field. But there's a lot of people that want started dogs. And so I try to keep 2 or 3, every year that are well started. And I mean, well started, like stay with you in the field, have been shot over, exposed to birds. They're pointing. They might not be, finished, but I want I like well-started dogs. And then I do finish some dogs and have them force fetched, and they're retrieving and holding and, backing. So not everybody wants a baby puppy.
Not everybody needs one. And, there's,
Right.
yeah, I mean, no judgment there. There are people that are just really busy. Their lifestyles are not
Right.
conducive to dedicating those, every hour of every day for several weeks
Yes.
to making sure that puppy is socializing and developing properly and learning. I mean, just puppy housebreaking it's a pretty detail oriented, and it could be an intense process. And some dogs can get it quickly, and some dogs take several weeks.
Right. And I like to help people with that too. I try to condition my pups to go to their new home already exposed to inside the house in a crate. When they're little puppies, I have them, I put down pine shavings, and they start going to the bathroom in those. And then when they come into the house, if you'll put a little pile of pine shavings outside your door, outside we go, and where you go, it gets pretty easy. But I try to condition all the pups so that they go into their new home. The transition is pretty smooth. Most people tell me maybe one night, maybe 2 days, and then they just get right into the new lifestyle.
Sure.
So I think conditioning the pups to transition is really important.
Well, I've had you on the phone for a while here, and I can tell you got your NSTRA hat and your orange shirt. So I'm going to take a risk and say you're ready to get out into the yard or out in the field with your dogs, right?
Always, every day there's a little bit of training that goes on, so or something going on. So yeah.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you go ahead and, kind of close it up for us?
Okay. Well, I appreciate you having me on and talking about Brittany's because I'm a big Brittany fan. I have a website, ottercreekbrittanys.com, and a Facebook page, Otter Creek Brittanys. And of course, I'm located in the middle of the country, north central Arkansas. So I'm pretty accessible from about anywhere. And I've placed dogs all over the country and Alaska and, everywhere. So, I've worked with people for, I'm not crazy about shipping, but I can and would do it. I love it when people fly in, rent a car, and drive back to their home because they really get to bond with their pup, uh, in that. But shipping is available. But yeah, I'm just available 24/7 and easy to get a hold of.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, and definitely easy to get a hold of, because sometimes I have to chase some people down, and some people are not interested. Some people are really busy. Some people are just not as easy to get a hold of, but it did not take a long time to find you. So
Well,
I
and
appreciate that.
there's so many scammers out there now, and I don't always pick up the phone when I don't recognize a number. But if you're selling pups and placing pups and talking to people, you about have to pick up the phone and at least see. And you were so easy to talk to the first time you called me. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Deb. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for being on the show, Deb. Like I said, I really appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
As soon as we stopped recording, Deb said, olfactory gland. And I know a whole bunch of you are screaming that towards your smartphone or in your car on the way to work or whatever you're doing when you're listening to this right now. I hope you enjoyed episode number 15 of the Woe Post. To support the podcast, leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening to right now and share it with all of your friends, or become a patron at patreon.com/thewoepost. You can contact me on Facebook or Instagram at The Woe Post, on my website, www.thewoepost.com, or through email, bill@thewoepost.com. Stay steady and God bless.